Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Song W. Erickson. Thank you for checking out this video. I really hope you'll enjoy it. I would love to hear your thoughts on the books I plan to read and would love to hear what you're planning to read. This is actually the third time I've recorded this video because the first time I recorded it, I realized I was talking too fast. The second time, I was fairly happy with how it came out, only for there to be a catastrophic failure between my phone and my computer, and the footage got lost. Along with the footage for like 2 other videos I was planning to do. Anyway, probably for the best. I can remake them better. Right? Right. Let's just keep telling ourselves that. Anyway, so let's talk about the books I want to read in 2026. Or more specifically, books I might read, because technically I am a mood reader and it really is going to depend on my mood. And the library. And my funds. But let's get to it. Alright. Last video, when I talked about the books I read in 2025, I ended with the manga and the comics. So we're going to start there in part just because that is also the stuff I'm most interested to read this year. To explain why that is, I grew up in a very religious fundamentalist household, and so I had an anime phase when I was a teenager, but as my mom became more radical, it was, oh no, God is telling me that manga and anime is demonic, and you can't read that anymore. So I wasn't able to read that anymore. Finally, now that I'm 34, I've finally gotten some space from my mother. I've talked about that in other videos. I've decided why not go back. And in particular right now, I am rereading a series that I really liked as a teenager. Starting with Ayashi no Saras by Yu Watase. I said in the 2025 video that I'd already reread the first 4 volumes of this, and I loved this series when I was 14. I was obsessed with this series. I could not get enough. I was waiting. The last 3 or 4 volumes were still coming out by the time I found this series, and I was just fiending, waiting for my bookstore to call me to say, oh yeah, the new book you ordered is in, so I could just run there and get it. I was obsessed, like I said. And now that I've reread the first 4 volumes, I had no idea what was going on in this story. Like, I understood the plot, don't get me wrong, the plot itself is fairly simple, but I had no idea what was going on the subtextual level. Like, I haven't even reread the later books, and like, okay, this is a bit of a spoiler, for a manga that came out in the 90s and very early 2000s. The breeding program that shows up in later volumes, I did not fully comprehend that. I did not comprehend just how awful that was, but I also didn't comprehend just how the fact that that is awful ties into the themes of the story, because I did not understand the themes of the story. And I'm looking back at poor innocent 14-year-old Song going, you innocent summer child. But I still loved this series, and after reading the first 4 volumes, I cannot wait to read the rest of this series. Now, my library does not have volumes 5 through 14, which is something I cannot forgive them for, so I'm gonna have to figure out how I can get my hands on them. But yeah, I cannot wait to reread the rest of this series. I've also discovered that, like, no one has done any retrospective video essays on Saras. Am I gonna have to? Like, I've always struggled with video essays. Like, I love watching them, but I've always struggled doing them. Do I need to, though? honestly, I'm gonna have to finish reading the series before I do, obviously, but I think I might have to. Anyway, it's a good thing I'm doing YouTube again, right? Anyway, so yeah, no. I cannot wait to reread the rest of that series, even if I end up having to pay for it and just buy the books again. Because I loved Ceres, Yu Watase was my favorite mangaka at the time, and so I also want to revisit another series that I loved, which was Fushigi Yugi. I didn't like it as much as I liked Ceres, but still really enjoyed this series. I should probably talk about what these series are actually about. Okay, I mentioned this briefly in the last video, but Ceres Celestial Legend is about 16-year-old Aya Mikage, who finds out that she and her twin brother are descended from a celestial maiden of Japanese mythology called a Tenyo. In North America, it was originally translated as angel. It gives you a gist, but not quite. But yeah, no, descended from a celestial maiden, which means Aya's family wants to kill her and basically deify her twin brother. It's great. There is so much death and destruction in this series. But yeah, no, it is, I believe it's billed as a horror romance, which I never comprehended when I was 14. But yeah, quite bloody, a bit disturbing. I did mention a breeding program. Fushigi Yugi is about, I think she's 14. 14-year-old Miyaka, who finds herself isekai'd into a book called The Legend of the Four Gods, into a version of ancient China. It's never really established if it's actual ancient China or if it's some kind of parallel. I don't know. Anyway, finds herself back in ancient China, where she is declared the priestess of the god Suzaku and is expected to collect the 7 celestial warriors so she can bring peace to the kingdom where she is a priestess. Speaking of Fushigi Yugi, there are 2 prequels in the universe, which is Genbu Kaiden and Yako something. I don't remember it. When I stopped reading anime, I think there were only 3 volumes of Genbu Kaiden available. It's a prequel about the priestess of Genbu, who was like 70 years before Miyaka, I think. Yeah, so I've only read the first 2, maybe 3 volumes of that. I would like to go back and reread/finish that series. And I've never touched the Byakuya series. I think it's completed. I know Watase had some health issues, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to check that out. But yeah, I'd love to finish the entire Fushigi Yugi story. Universe? I don't know what to call it. Anyway, yeah. Continuing with my Watase revisit is Alice 19th. And if Ceres is my favorite Watase manga, I think Alice 19th might actually be the second. And it is actually pretty close. Alice 19th is about a girl named Alice, who I think she's 15, who discovers that she can use words of power. It's been a long time since I read this one, and I don't remember much about it, aside from her sister being possessed by the evil words of power, and something like that. And Alice being in love with her sister's boyfriend. Whoops. Yeah, so that I want to revisit that one. And again, saying that's my second favorite, obviously that's how I remember it, so yeah, I do need to read it again. A manga that is not by Yu Watase, that I'm really excited to go back to / finish, finally, is Red River by Chie Shinohara. I hope I said that right. Yeah, 15-year-old Yuri from Japan finds herself transported back to the ancient Hittite Empire, where the crown prince / king's advisors run a PR campaign to have her billed as the goddess of war Ishtar. I'm sure there are other manga I will find / revisit, yada yada, but for now, that's what's on my list. bringing me to comics that are not manga, which is going to be so guaranteed I'll be reading Punderworld Volume 2 by Linda Sejic. Punderworld is a humorous retelling of Hades and Persephone. I think it's basically a rom-com. And I've read the first volume. I've been following the creation of this story for years, since she first posted like the first concept of it. Very excited to read book 2. I don't have a lot to say about this one, just that this is something that I enjoy and that I read for fun. Whereas Stepan Sejic and his work, I think we're getting Fine Print Volume 4 this year, or we are at least going to start it. I'm a member of Sejic's Patreon, so like I get pretty much monthly updates on a bunch of his series, including Fine Print. So like in my last video, I talked about how, oh yeah, I finished Fine Print Volume 3 before realizing as I was editing the video that like we were waiting on the last 50 pages and they came out while I was editing. So technically I didn't finish Volume 3 until the first of the year, whatever. Close enough. I read Fine Print Volume 3 and then realized it doesn't come out for like 5 more months. But like, yeah, so technically I got an advanced reader copy by some definition. So I got to give it a review. But yeah, no. Fine Print with the subtitle, or Why a Divine Contract May Not Be the Best Cure for a Broken Heart, is a story about a woman named Lauren Thomas who has royally screwed up her life and gets involved with sex gods, basically, to try and cope. And it's like, okay, you give me boundless physical pleasure and you take away my pain, and I can never love again. Cool. And then it just gets complicated from there. I talked about this in my 2025 books video, and this series is weird. There is some insane character designs, and the political intrigue between the gods and the Cubi and the Cupid. Cupid? Yeah, I think are they called Cupid or Cupids? Anyway, love and desire are themes that come up in a lot of stories I like. Interesting. But yeah, no, it's big deal about love and desire and the mistakes you make and the consequences for your actions and stuff like that. Really good. I'll give the same warning I gave there. This series is very M-rated. There is a lot of skin. There is a lot of sexual content. There is full frontal nudity, male and female. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this series. So like I said, I assume he's gonna be starting Volume 4 on Patreon in the next few months, and I will of course be reading that. If he finishes it this year, I don't know. Basically, whatever Sejic puts out on his Patreon, I'm going to be reading. So, and that'll probably also include the next volume of Sunstone, which is a BDSM slice of life romance about a bunch of lovable idiots and the mistakes they make. Highly recommend, but again, very M-rated. Okay. Is there any other comics I'm getting to? No, I don't think so. As for books that I don't have physical copies of, Bloodsinger by Juliet Cross. I talked about the first book in this trilogy, which was Firebird, which is a bit controversial because it's a master-slave romance set in a fictional ancient Rome where instead of being suckled by a she-wolf, Romulus and Remus were suckled by a she-dragon who gave the Roman nobility descendants. The descendants of Romulus and Remus were given the power to turn into dragons. So it's a dragon shifter, dark fantasy romance. I thought it was okay. I thought the controversy for the first book was very overblown. I have a feeling the same discussion is going to be happening with the second book. But yeah, Bloodsinger is supposed to come out in the first quarter maybe of this year. I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I probably will. Yeah, I didn't love the first book, but I enjoyed it well enough that I will check out the sequel. I will give it the same due that I gave it in my last video, which is that Juliet Cross did her research on ancient Rome for this story. The language she uses, and even some of the details about how the society works, pretty accurate. And even like the backstory with Romulus and Remus and how the dragon shifters came to be, I liked that. I thought it was creative. But also Dragon Shifter isn't something I read very often, so I don't know what counts as overdone and what's creative. So I don't know if that's something that's super common. Again, I thought it was creative. Okay. I think that brings me... I don't think there's anything else releasing this year that I don't have my hands on. I will probably find something that I want to read as it comes out, but for now, yeah, let's go on to the books I've owned for a while and haven't read yet. Starting with Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft. Allison Saft, yeah. Do you have any idea how hard it was to get my hands on this book? Okay, this is a YA fantasy romance set in the world of Disney's Pixie Hollow series, or the Disney Fairies series. It is the romance that was talked about in the Secret of the Wings movies between Queen Clarion and Lord Mallory. And this book was so hard to get your hands on when it first came out because the scalpers on this book were so bad. Like, this was very nearly my villain origin story when I saw how the scalpers were scooping up this book. But yeah, no, I enjoyed some of the Tinkerbell movies, including this one, or including Secret of the Wings, and so I'm very curious to read this. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and actually read it. But I was able to get my hands on it, and that was challenge enough. Red Sonja Consumed by Gail Simone. So, you might not know this about me. One of my favorite authors is Robert E. Howard, who is the creator of Conan the Barbarian. And unless you have actually read any of Robert E. Howard's writing, do not judge me. And if your only experience with Conan is the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, you don't know Conan. Hashtag not my Conan. Get that off my screen. And if you know anything about Conan, you know that Red Sonja is associated with Conan through the Marvel Comics. I'm not going into the complex history of how this character actually came about. Just know that she was created by Marvel, ended up with Dynamite, and I mean, she wears bikini armor, so she got pretty popular. No problem. I like the bikini armor. I like the character design. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. I've read the first chapter. Gail Simone's writing does not compare to Robert E. Howard's, in my personal opinion. But I still want to read it, and I want to at least give it a chance. First chapter didn't do much for me, but again, it was just the first chapter, so at some point I will get back to it. At some point. Yeah. I don't even know what that one's about. I just know that it's something about rebellion and possibly revolution. Something like that. I just know it's Red Sonja. And I decided to give it a chance, like I said. I'll come back to it. The Seventh Sister by M.A. Brown. I have no idea what this book is about. I found it in an indie bookstore, and I really liked the cover. And I liked the design of the cover, so I was like, okay, I was on a book buying spree because it was my birthday, and I had money, and I was in a bookstore, and I just bought a bunch of books. When Eartha is stolen away to the dark shores of an enemy kingdom, she's thrust into a tangled web of political intrigue and deadly secrets that leaves her wondering who she can trust. The otherworldly right hand of the king, who is her keeper, or the soldier she healed, who has vowed to protect her at all costs. When it becomes clear she wasn't just taken by chance, that there are much more powerful entities with their hands steering her fate, she's forced to confront that nothing is as it seems, not the men who protect her, the world she knows, or even herself. Okay, now I have some idea what this book is about. Intriguing. So yeah, this is another one that I will check out when the time comes. Is that? I think I know what font that is. I think I've used that font. Anyway, Wooing the Witch Queen by Stephanie Burgess. No idea. It sounds interesting. Queen Saskia is the wicked sorceress everyone fears. After wresting the throne from her evil uncle, she only wants one thing: to keep her people safe. That doesn't sound very wicked. She needs to spend more time in her laboratory experimenting with her spells. She definitely doesn't have time to bring order to her chaotic library of magic. When a mysterious dark wizard arrives at her castle, Saskia hires him as her new librarian on the spot. Fabian is sweet and a little nerdy, and his requests seem a bit strange. What in the name of divine Elva is a fountain pen? But he's getting the job done. And if he writes her flirtatious poetry and his innocent touch makes her skin singe, well, little does Saskia know that the wizard she's falling for is actually an imperial archduke in disguise. He's on the run with perilous secrets on his trail and a fast-growing yearning for the wicked sorceress. When his identity is finally revealed, will their love save or doom each other? Okay, so we know what it's about, I guess. It sounds interesting. It sounds like one of those books that I'm honestly just gonna read when I need something light. I'm not expecting anything deep from this, quite frankly. But I don't want anything deep from it. I have a feeling this is going to be like a fantasy beach read, if that makes sense. We'll get to you in a minute. Let's see. So, aside from the manga I already talked about, some of which I already have checked out from the library, this is the next book that I plan to read, Phoenix Unbound by Grace Draven. All I know is that there's a witch and a gladiator, and that got my attention because I have a thing for sexy gladiators. I will not apologize. Someday I will put my book out again, and people will see just how much I like sexy gladiators, but again, that's a conversation for another time. Yeah, so witch, gladiator, some kind of sacrifice. I'm not even going to bother reading the back of this one. But I'm looking forward to this. There is a bookmark in here just on page 1, so that when I'm ready to get to it, I can skip through the front matter and just get to it. Yeah. Witch, sexy gladiator, okay, I'm here. This was another one of those books that I bought because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have fun buying books. Okay. The odds I will actually read this year are very low. But I'm going to try. Okay. The Iliad by Homer, the Emily Wilson translation. Okay. So, I've talked about this channel. I've talked about this in previous videos that may or may not still be up. I love Epic the Musical, which is a independently released musical album by Jorge Rivera Herons, I believe it's pronounced. Absolutely incredible adaptation of the Odyssey. It is not accurate to the source material. It is very much influenced by anime and video games. Highly recommend. Love the music. So good. Again, the character writing in that. Chef's kiss. So good. Love it. He's getting ready. Well, he's currently working on an adaptation of the Iliad as well, which is going to be called Ilium the Musical. And as such, I want to read the Iliad, preferably before he starts releasing it, or at least this year. I will give it a shot. I'm not very good with poetry. I sometimes have a hard time comprehending it. So again, like I said, it's giving it a shot. I have heard that the Emily Wilson translation is very accessible, even to people who don't know much about the language from the time, so that's part of why I picked that one up. That brings me to the odds I will read both of these this year is very, very unlikely. The Aeneid by Virgil. This one I got mostly just because my boyfriend and I were in the bookstore and this was sitting on one of the tables. And he was telling me how the Aeneid is basically just propaganda that Augustus commissioned to connect the Roman nobility back to the heroes of ancient Greece that they loved telling stories about. And the moment he said it was propaganda from let me see. The moment he said it was propaganda commissioned by Augustus, I was like, okay, I'm here. I have to at least own this and have it on my shelf. It's also something I've been wanting to read because, like, I do want to learn more about the Greek classics, and I want to learn more about those stories. And it's something I've heard people talk about, and I want to read them for myself. I just know it will probably be difficult for me to read and comprehend them. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I don't think I even need to talk about what this one is about. The prequel Hunger Games, second prequel, so it's the second Quarter Quell, number 50, with Haymitch. I've read the first 3 Hunger Games books. I haven't read Ballad of Snakes and Songbirds yet. Like I said, I've read the first 3 books. I actually just reread them about 10 years ago, I think. I am well aware that book is going to hurt. Like, a lot of these books I have are fairly light and fluffy, right? And it's stuff that I can read just when I need to relax. I know Sunrise on the Reaping is not going to be that, especially since, oh god, I ran across, after I recorded the original version of this, I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw a spoiler for this book. I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit. And it reminded me just how brutal the Hunger Games are, and by extension, just how much this book is gonna hurt. I'm not looking forward to that, but at the same time, I do want to read it, especially before the movie comes out. But yeah, so those are my books that I want to read in 2026, or that I might read in 2026. Also on that shelf, which is where I keep my books I want to read, is the Odyssey by Homer, because of course I bought the Iliad and the Odyssey together. The Iliad is kind of my priority for this because, like I said, the Iliad musical is gonna start coming out hopefully this year or next, and I want to read it before it does. Hence why the Iliad is in the stack here. But yeah, I have the Odyssey. I have Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, mostly just because my boyfriend loves Jurassic Park and he's read the book and he really liked it. And I also have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, just because I picked that one out of a little free library down the street. And was like, okay, I've heard about this one. I know a little about it. I'll give it a shot. But yeah, I think that's everything. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts are on them, or let me know what you plan to read this year. I would love to hear your thoughts. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel. And I think that's everything for now. So stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.